I'm often mindful of the words I choose in describing my thoughts, because those choices color how we conceptualize what we contemplate in ways that can lead us to faulty conclusions. The vocabulary we employ as we shape our ideas defines much of our inner narrative. While our various mental cartoons for reality have their value, we mustn't confuse cartoons with reality itself. So even when I refer to what science calls the laws of nature, I'm careful to remind myself that the narrative of a universe bound by inviolate laws is not true. Ours is not a mechanistic, deterministic universe. That's a trap we risk falling into, assuming the universe operates like a clockwork machine. I've been persuaded to think of the universe as an unfolding drama. Drama is unpredictable, prone to surprises and twists of plot, introducing new characters, props, and sets that affect the nature and direction of events. The dramatic universe I imagine also introduces new characters, phenomena, and dynamics that give rise to novel and unexpected happenings, including things we call unexplainable. Of course, drama critics and writing teachers are quick to point out that dramas composed by human beings are sometimes good, occasionally great, and very often bad. What decides the quality of the drama is often how artfully various storytelling tropes are used, including avoiding some so overused as to be cliché at best and tiredly predictable at worst. Some of these tropes are so infamous, they are roundly denounced as unimaginative, lazy, and disrespectful to the narrative. One such narrative device to achieve such infamy is called Deus Ex Machina, which translates God from the machine. It refers to the sudden introduction of a surprise element that just happens to cleanly resolve impossible situations and rescue doomed characters. Actor-director Robert McKee wrote that Deus Ex Machina not only erases all meaning and emotion, it's an insult to the audience. Deus Ex Machina is an insult because it is a lie. In this edition of the Temporal Reverie, I want to further develop the narrative of a universe arising from divine mind, vibrational in character, occupying a field of pure consciousness, and unfolding all things according to story being authored by God. In such a universe, would it not be true that everything that transpires inside results from Deus Ex Machina? Might a vilified dramatic trope, eschewed by human beings, ironically be the actual means by which everything has reality in the dramatic universe? Maybe, with respect to Robert McKee, Deus Ex Machina isn't really a lie at all. God authors a divine narrative that is expressed as the dramatic universe. Because everything that exists in the theater of experience arises from that authorship, the very process by which God's divine narrative emerges into being is the ultimate demonstration of Deus Ex Machina. A storytelling trope considered poor form in human literature possibly turns out to be how reality is actually shaped. The new narrative I yearn to find, if it can be at all found, is one that unifies science and religion and proves both faith and reason are complementary experiences that must be combined and integrated for a more complete understanding of our humanity and our path through the universe. Over several episodes this season, I've described a narrative for the universe that offers a scenario for how faith and reason might both describe perfectly valid aspects of a much more complex reality. As someone who tries, as well as any flawed human being can, to be a follower of Christ, this new narrative seeks to create unification without denying defining tenets of the Christian faith, such as supernatural miracles. The broad brushstrokes of this new narrative are these. God exists in a field of divine consciousness, a portion of which has been transformed by a change in vibrational pattern into a domain containing an illusion of four-dimensional space-time filled with the cosmos and separated from direct experience of the larger divine reality by an isolating envelope I call the maker brain. The maker brain not only contains the physical universe, but by the manner of its own vibration, ceaselessly propagates changes in state to the whole universe each time it gets recreated. While I describe the maker brain and its contents as the boundaries and condition of the universe, all of which vibrate, I didn't venture to guess about what actually vibrates in the field of divine consciousness. There are a few necessary questions to consider about this developing mystic narrative. If the ultimate form of reality is vibration, then what is the essence, the nature, the qualities of whatever does all this vibrating? How does the full detail of the theater of experience arise from this vibrating something, including space-time, substance, and our nature as conscious beings created in the image of God? Understanding how each of us arises from the very essence of God can illuminate better our relationship to the divine and to the universe, a relationship more people have come to see as both opportunity and invitation to become co-creators of our reality. Such understanding can clarify how spiritual talents now emerging within humanity, talents such as manifestation, coexist and cooperate in the same architecture that produces supernatural miracles and scientific fact. I imagine the workings of the divine mind are holographic in some way, which is to say not localized in particular parts like organs in a body, but distributed across the entire volume of divine being. These activities perhaps are able to interact when desirable, but also able to work without interference from other aspects of being. While it's easy to speak of something like pure consciousness, in truth that tells us nothing at all about its properties and how those properties might contribute to the emergence of our physical reality. Because I believe that the stuff of pure consciousness is neither matter nor energy, but something entirely different, it will be useful to give a name to this entirely different stuff. In the Maitreya Upanishad, a Hindu sacred text, it says, "Om is the primordial throb of the universe. It is the sound form of Atma." Taking my inspiration from that passage, I use the name Om for the stuff of pure consciousness. The stuff of pure consciousness is Om. This field of pure consciousness resembles an infinite domain of vibrating filaments of Om. Taking together, this domain of Om provides the material of the divine mind. The vibrations of these filaments are exceedingly complex. The pattern of vibration for a given filament, or a cluster of adjacent filaments, indeed whole swaths of the entire domain, are defined by patterns formed in the imagination of the divine mind, dictated to the maker brain to be translated into the illusion of reality. The Om filaments are raw material, woven by the patterns sent through it from the divine mind. The patterns in God's thoughts define the vibrational pattern of all these filaments in order to express divine will, much like the music in the mind of a guitar player receives physical form by making the guitar strings vibrate. The effect of all these oscillating Om filaments varies depending on the pattern with which each vibrates. Many of these filaments vibrate in a very steady pattern that produces an interwoven 10-dimensional phenomenon, a phenomenon whose 10 dimensions include the 4-dimensional space-time that comprises the observable universe. Other filaments scattered throughout the field vibrate in a pattern that is expressed in that 10-dimensional construct as the strings of string theory. Those strings then take up vibrations of their own, as produced by sub-vibrations within the filaments making up those strings. The vibrational pattern observable in the string theory projects a presence in our 4-dimensional space-time that sometimes manifests as a particle and sometimes as a wave, sometimes as matter and sometimes as energy. In chapter 10 of the Gospel of John, Jesus says, "The Father and I are one." In the imagination of most Christian believers, I suspect, is a vision of the Father or the Creator as a separate character from Jesus the Christ. So what could Jesus mean about him and God being one? You can see this as an expression of a part of the essential truth of the Holy Trinity, which is to say that Jesus and God are one in the Trinity, just as each are one with the Holy Spirit. But I wonder if there might be another, possibly more intriguing interpretation. Could Jesus possibly be saying that the manifestation of his living human consciousness during his mortal incarnation and the divine mind in some way blend or interpenetrate each other? I've described how the divine mind might fill the entire field of divine consciousness, even the region set aside by God to express the physical universe as an unfolding manifestation of divine narrative still finds its ultimate form in the ocean of vibrating Om. Perhaps our sense of self and identity are also illusions. To populate a universe with living beings evolving as expressions of mind and spirit, God perhaps made human beings in his image, by first producing the collective unconscious as a kind of conceptual sketch within divine narrative and expressed by the maker brain. Our authentic and eternal selves, growing and evolving across multiple incarnations, project themselves into the physical universe to coalesce in close locality of, and thus bind to, a developing human fetus for its next incarnation. Upon the transition of birth that brings full admission to the theater of experience, our projected eternal selves provide a subconscious mind, extending like a tendril from the collective unconscious that itself is a tendril from the divine mind. As beings of consciousness, we are made of God stuff. Each of us is the tip of a long, fine hair of life that grows out of the divine mind. There is significantly more to each of us than the contents of our present lives. But I believe that part of the purpose of our being is to provide sensory touch points by which God experiences all the many ways one can be in the creation. As a favorite lyric from a song by Enigma expresses it, "Just feel and realize it is real and not a dream. I'm in you and you're in me." I think an important part of what Jesus was trying to say about He and the Father being one was that all our mortal lives arise from divine consciousness. God is expressed through you, and you can draw upon the gifts of consciousness because you are immersed in God. The search for God is inevitably a journey within. In describing magnitudes of order, I immediately identified three such magnitudes distinct from one another by the scales of spatial dimensions. The quantum magnitude of order holds sway at the scale of the subatomic. The larger scale in the classical magnitude of order follows the rules of Newtonian mechanics. And at even larger cosmic magnitudes of order, general relativity predicts what we observe. But with the consideration of string theory and its more than four-dimensional space-time, changing scale took on entirely new dimensions, quite literally. In the simplest variations, string theory proposes a 10-dimensional space-time with 1 dimension of time and 9 dimensions of space. If the domain of divine consciousness exists endlessly as vibrations spanning the infinite expanse of Ohm filaments, if it can also vibrate in ways that project an illusion of a 10-dimensional space-time, and from that, the 4 dimensions of our experience, what dimensions could describe this overarching domain of pure being? For all we know, such a domain might encompass multiple dimensions of time with implications beyond our capacity to imagine. It might include many more dimensions of space than we can conceive. The expanse of vibrating Ohm filaments might move in something as exotic to our minds as 27 spatial dimensions expressed in 3 dimensions of time. Part of the appeal of string theory is that it provides a narrative that unifies matter and energy as different expressions of a common thing. These strings, these vibrating loops of something, can appear to us as any kind of matter or any kind of energy based on their vibrational pattern. But if these strings too are illusions, projected from multidimensional filaments of Ohm, what other kinds of mirages, what other novel patterns of vibration might these filaments take? And what phenomena would arise from those other patterns? In much the same way as the strings of string theory present different forms to us based on their different possible vibrational states, these filaments of Ohm can present different constructs based on their vibrational states. One such collection of vibrational patterns could be described as string-generating patterns, which means these vibrational patterns cast a 10-dimensional shadow that appear to be these vibrating strings, each type seeming to express its own vibrational moves. Another possible collection of vibrational states could be called space-time generating patterns, which means these patterns are the source of the fabric of space-time itself in all of its varying, multidimensional, holographic shapes. In his play, As You Like It, William Shakespeare expressed one idea quite famously. All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts. Shakespeare's suggestion that the universe is a stage on which each of us play designated parts provides an intriguing starting place for exploring the theater of experience. For one thing, the metaphor itself embodies an entrenched supposition. If you think about the function of a stage in theater, One simple way to describe it is that it's the place where the action occurs, its location, a focal point of attention that provides space within which the performance transpires. Because of all the coordinate diagrams we saw in math books or had to draw for math homework, all of which were static and unmoving, a 3D universe of locations, of space, suggests a static, constant quality to the universe. Space is space. We often assume it's unwavering and constant. Certainly things move around quite a bit within that space, but the perception of space itself for most people is something that is somehow uniform and unchanging. Space is simply the place where all the action happens. It's the stage. Players come and go, props appear, are used and moved around, and eventually disappear. Backdrops and lighting change, but the stage itself is always there, constant. Time is the unfolding of actions on the stage. It's the sequence of when and how the stuff on the stage changes and moves in order to present the tale acted out by the performers. Time provides the cues for when the players have their exits and their entrances. Upon the static and unchanging stage, time provides the dynamism with which the performances are expressed. Among the many philosophies that have arisen to explain the nature of the universe, one in particular stipulates that the sum total of all reality is the observable, material universe. Space and time, matter and energy, that's all there is. And further, it stipulates that all phenomena in the universe are the result of, and can be explained by the application of discoverable laws that can only be discovered by science and reason. Broadly speaking, this notion of reality is called materialism. By nature of its very definition, materialism denies the validity of anything supernatural because it stipulates that all phenomena stem from the physical nature, the material interaction of things. Unsurprisingly, one expects a great many atheists to be materialists of one stripe or another. The apologists for materialism argue that the only reliable knowledge possible is that which observation and experimentation produces. Materialism is very much a philosophy in which all the world's a stage that results from a straightforward assembly of mechanical parts operating in an unwavering, predictable pattern. And all of those mechanically driven parts, those that form everything we experience and know, including ourselves, are doing only and exactly what the laws of nature require them to do. It's the notion of the grand clockwork universe, a vast and immensely complex machine grinding inevitably toward some final state according to the inexorable workings of its design. This kind of universe is also called the mechanistic deterministic universe. It's a vision of the universe that provided insights such as Newton's laws of motion, the laws of thermodynamics, and other laws of physics. The mechanistic deterministic universe is sometimes called a universe of Newtonian mechanics. The mechanistic deterministic universe has framed the ideas we commonly hold about the nature of reality, what is possible and expected versus what is impossible and imaginary, what is natural and trustworthy versus what is supernatural and considered suspect. It has stood in our collective understanding for a very long time now, so much so that we almost never take note of it, much less challenge its truth or accuracy. It invariably frames discussions about science and faith. Aside from deeply troubling human implications of such a universe, we have known for a century or more now that this vision of the universe is flawed. It is not accurate. It is demonstrably incorrect. The philosophies built atop the presumption of its validity must be reconsidered in light of the evidence by which determinism is invalidated. It seems to me that we have the means to be more than merely players in the theater of experience. Part of our birthright as beings of consciousness is the amazing potential to become an author of our reality to an extent most people would dismiss as daydreaming. Manifestation is an imprecise but still comparatively simple technique for changing reality, one that's being widely advocated and taught. How might manifestation work within the vibrational and multidimensional architecture we've considered for reality over the course of several episodes? That particular architecture was envisioned as a way of bridging the supernatural reality of the divine with the observable universe described by science, envisioned in such a way as to allow for the working of supernatural miracles. If manifestation is indeed a special, limited expression of a deeper, more precise, more instantaneous capacity to alter the pattern of reality, then surely they both operate through the maker brain. How might our less evolved and unenlightened mortal consciousness access the maker brain? How would that access differ from that of a fully enlightened being like Jesus Christ? I believe the waking consciousness of our current incarnation is a consciousness of identity and ego that emerges in the physical universe from our authentic, eternal self. That authentic, eternal self retains all we have learned across our incarnations, but it can only offer benefit of that learning from behind the veil of our subconscious mind. And our eternal selves extend energetically from the divine mind. Just because any one of us might not be fully enlightened, might not yet be elevated to Christ consciousness, does not mean that we are completely unplugged from the narrative process that gives reality shape and definition. All the various techniques used in manifestation are intended to focus your desires to generate a particular vibrational pattern in your mind that you then project toward the divine source. If the maker brain establishes the moment-by-moment evolving patterns of vibration that define our reality, then it must also reflect the many vibrational notes produced by human beings exercising their free will in acts of focused intention. Those thoughts and intentions, too, are part of the vibrational state that the Genesis oscillation collapses, the echoes of which are captured and held in the Akashic field. As the maker brain applies the vibrational transforms that move time forward and alter the expression of reality in keeping with the default programming described by science, it also takes into account vibrations in the Akashic field indicating a conscious mind seeking to manifest. The maker brain is always ready to generate states of exception from the requests of sufficiently enlightened beings. We can also suppose it responds to our less sophisticated requests produced by manifestation in a correspondingly less pronounced manner, by shifting probabilities to improve chances of particular outcomes rather than instantaneously producing them. The maker brain accommodates such shifts provided they are not overruled by the divine mind to help keep our journeys on the previously promised paths we chose before incarnating. I've spoken before about the birth, life, and mission of Jesus as the expression of special divine narrative written into reality by God, the sacred storyteller expressing the dramatic universe. But in truth, every one of us who is incarnated were also characters written into the dramatic universe. Each human being is a unique narrative thread unfolding in the drama of existence. By the grace of our Creator, we were all granted free will, which in return makes us a very unusual type of narrative. We are self-authoring narratives, narratives with the means to rewrite our story at any time. This power of authorship provides us the means to be empowered as co-creators of our reality. From time to time, I hear others claim, "I hate drama," and I chuckle deep inside every single time I hear someone say that, because there's not a lick of truth anywhere in that claim. Human beings are obsessed with drama. Within America alone, we've collectively given rise to countless multi-billion-dollar industries that each exist to imagine, manufacture, and serve up endless drama. The human condition is drama. It's the lines we speak during our stage time in the theater of experience, and the steps of the moment that in time walk our path. While our contemporary notion of four-dimensional space-time, with mutable substance forming matter and energy, sketches for each of us a universe of events, each identifiable by 3 spatial coordinates and 1 temporal coordinate, even that expanded notion doesn't open up far enough. Our universe moves an unimaginable quantity of quivering threads. Like a field of grain gently moving in a wind, our universe creates a pattern of conditions that morph over time with phenomena that appear in periods of greater influence and then disappear into invisibility. The conditions of reality unfold like a story where new information changes the direction of the tale. While perhaps all the world's a stage, the whole universe is a drama, written by Deus Ex Machina. Next time on the Temporal Reverie, I want to share a chapter in my personal story. It's one thing to navel-gaze about the ideas I've examined in this series and share those ideas with others. It's another to find yourself overwhelmed by such mounting difficulty, disappointment, and crisis that you're pushed to the brink of disaster, when the only way back from the precipice is to put beliefs into practice and take our divine gifts seriously. I found out firsthand how God moves in mysterious ways. In Genesis, God spoke the universe into being. In Exodus, God spoke to Moses and puts the power of miracles in his hand. In the Gospels, God spoke at the baptism of Jesus and awakened him to Christ consciousness. As children of God on a quest for our finest and most complete humanity, we must remember that to be a co-author of the universe, we must first seek our divine collaborator, adding our voice to the greater voice who speaks all things into being. I'd like to know what you think of this episode. Please leave any questions or thoughts to share in the comments below. My thanks to God for this chance to share with all of you, and may the gifts of love, joy, peace, and enlightenment come to you all.